Well, NFT NYC community, there is one thing we likely can't talk too little about, and that would be mental health. It is so interesting when you consider that the stock market has set hours, yet our NFT world, all of our friends GMing each other, we're stuck in a 24/7 cycle, nonstop pressure if they are thinking about it from a market perspective as a trader or whatnot. And I think that has probably brought a lot of things to light. And then wonderful people like my guest today, who I got to meet, her partner yesterday, Erin, is here to kind of share what they're doing at Held Mind and what's possible for the Web3 community around our new technologies in this respect. Thank you so much for being with me. And can you please introduce yourself to everyone that is part of the NFT NYC community?
Thank you so much, Ian. Yeah, sure. I'm Marianne Coyte, Grinney, and I'm one of the founders and the Chief Clinical Officer over at Held Mind.
So tell me maybe a little bit about how this happened. How did you, Erin, and the rest of the team have an idea around Held Mind, and maybe give us a little insight on the journey that got you here?
Yeah, sure. So I joined Web3 about a year ago, January, kind of by accident. I got COVID, I was bored. I thought I'd do some proper research for once. And within about 7 hours, I'd minted a bunch of NFTs and I'd fallen down a rabbit hole whilst my husband was downstairs texting me, kind of saying, what are you doing? What's going on? And I got really interested in women-led projects. And I also got really interested in Discord and the culture around that, and that they had mental health channels within the Discord projects. So I thought, wow, great. They're talking about mental health, destigmatizing it. But there was a kind of underbelly to that where the Discord channels weren't maybe moderated in a very safe way. People were being very vulnerable because the minute that we say mental health for anything, we open a door for vulnerability. And also there were some mental health spaces, and I thought people are coming up and again sharing really vulnerable parts of themselves, and no one's really moderating this. So I made a wish in the Meta Angels wishing well, and Aaron answered it, and he said, hey, we're a bunch of friends, we're setting up a project about mental health and sobriety. We're looking for mental health professionals. In real life, I'm a psychotherapist, a licensed psychotherapist, and we'd love for you to be part of that. So that's kind of how Held Mind came to be, in that we wanted to do mental health really ethically and intentionally in the space.
I just thought about something super interesting. In our environment, you hear a lot, this is not financial advice. Since the pandemic happened, wildly popular statement, this is not medical advice. Interesting that we don't hear people saying, this is not emotional advice, right? So you are a clinical psychologist. You went to school for the study of this practice to master the art of psychotherapy, allowing people to process things with you and to ideally bring them at least relief, if not transformation. When you look and you see the financial system, they have professionals that you can't just give advice, in the medical system, but for some reason, the emotional system, the system of our mind, of our heart, how we tick, how we think, how we operate, the way we see the world, there doesn't seem to be any sort of protection in regards of, you can't just tell people that about their feelings, you're not a professional. So this is kind of an epiphany to me. I never thought about this before. And I hope you don't mind me kind of going off for a moment about that thought. I'd love to hear your insight on that. You have my full attention.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I'm not a clinical psychologist. I'm a psychotherapist. No, it's fine. We do have clinical psychologists on our team, but I'm not one of them. I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Actually, we're always saying we cannot do therapy in Web3. We can't, we can't give that therapeutic advice. We can't say, hey, here's a space and we're going to tell you how to do X, Y, and Z with your mental health. So in exactly the same way as you're saying, not financial advice, not medical advice, this is not mental health advice. We can direct you and signpost you to where to get support. We can give some hints and tips around screen time and the basics around kind of emotional well-being. But you're right. And I think there's a very big difference between being a mental health professional that's licensed and accredited and being an expert of lived experience, who you've got great amounts of experience to share. You know, your journey's valid. What you're going through is so important. What you've been through is so important. You can offer so much, but you still can't dish out advice for what people should do with their emotional well-being and their mental health, because it can actually be really dangerous. And I think that, you know, we're in a 24/7 space here. It never, ever stops. And some of the mental health spaces that I've been in, they can become quite like trauma dumping. And there's no protection around that. There's no moderation around that. So, you know, I think that the space itself should come with a bit of a mental health warning. I said that when I first joined. But we also have a duty of care as professionals in the space to do no harm and to take care with what we're doing.
Well, what do you think the warning should be? You know, let's say that we could gather everybody up at NFT NYC at Times Square. And we're going to, because we rented the 4 major billboard sections to show off 2,000, you know, all the different artists, right, that we have and others. And if you could have the billboards for a moment, and it's your moment where you have everybody's attention, they're looking, and you can give them a warning, a clear, articulate warning that, you know, we find them on other products and services. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So to make a really succinct one, I'm probably not going to be able to make one off the cuff right now, but
Sure.
for me, it would be actually, when you enter this Web3 space, you are going to be more vulnerable with your mental health, because you'll get FOMO and you'll get, you know, pulled in and sucked in, and your screen time is going to go up. So I think one of the warnings that I would say is, be accountable for your screen time. Have somebody to hold you accountable for the amount of time that you're spending in this space, because time is currency, and it's your emotional and mental kind of currency. So if you've got the tap turned on that, much in the same way we hope that people wouldn't be throwing ETH at a project, you know, that they haven't done research on. Why would you throw your own emotional currency into something when you may not have done all the research that you need to do on that?
That's an interesting concept. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't want to resonate with that, because the thought of, you know, it makes sense in terms of like an alcoholic wouldn't go work at a bar as a bartender, right? However, if you have mental health struggles, potentially coming into this environment would be similar to somebody that used to be bound to alcohol, is now in recovery. They wouldn't want to put themselves back into a bar to be serving drinks to people, because that would assault their potential long-term recovery. And is that something that people should be aware of when they're coming into these spaces, that when you come into a space that runs 24/7 with unlimited channels for communication, unlimited projects to involve in, with a seemingly oppressive amount of fraud and trickery going on, is this the best environment for somebody to come into if they already have strain with the way they think, the way they feel? Or should they be thoughtful that, oh, that is an environment that may should have a warning label? So very, very interesting. I don't think people are going to want that to be true, but it may be true whether we like it or not.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, well, let me share my screen for a moment and show everybody what you and the panel have cooking for us. So you will be on Thursday at 9:40 a.m. on the main stage. It's a panel with many great other panelists, NFTs, a mental health call to action. Can you, Marianne, give us maybe a little preview of what we might experience at this upcoming panel?
Yeah, so we actually all met yesterday, and I had to meet Mike separately, and Mike took me all around Cape Canaveral on his
Did he
bike.
take you to space?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Our astronaut friend.
He took me to the beach. He didn't quite take me to space.
Okay, not this time.
So what we all came up with was, we want to really delve into kind of mental health and vulnerability, but we want to delve into how we are trying our best to take care of that within HealthMind as a project, and how we have really intentionally made brand partnerships and alliances with over kind of 40 projects now, who are taking care of their holders' mental health, and how that in itself can really become the utility of a project. So that's a little piece of what we'll be focusing on. We're going to do a bit of a dive into what Anne, she's our licensed clinical social worker and one of our clinical leads, and myself have been working on in terms of continuing educational development and training for in real life mental health professionals, because we don't believe that people who are paying for therapy should use their therapeutic time with their therapist to teach their therapist about Web3. So we've created a whole training platform for that, and we'll be dropping a bit more about that as well.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that one of the advantages of this approach with Held Mind is that the therapists that are available for people in the Web3 space don't have to be told what a floor price is, what it means to have your wallet drained, right? All these things are already assumed and known by the therapy team. And so this allows a Web3 person to jump in to therapy and save the first 3 meetings of trying to explain why they're going through this incredible trauma right now, because it's already understood by these folks. So I do see why that is a huge benefit. I'm glad that you're able to give some clarity on that. Well, Marianne, thank you for joining me today. And thank you for being a part of NFT NYC happening April 12th to the 14th. I look forward to seeing you in New York in a couple of weeks.
Thanks so much, Ian.
And for everybody that watched our conversation, thank you for your attention. I'll be back again with another fireside chat, very similar to this soon. And until then, everybody,